So it is 9:15 and we are starting promptly. Welcome back. Good morning, everyone. My name is Marianela Franklin, Chief Sustainability Officer here at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. Also with us is Mr. Jeremy San Miguel, who is a program coordinator for the Office for Sustainability. And we are here to welcome you today on behalf of the School of Earth, Environmental and Marine Sciences and the Office for Sustainability in collaboration with a whole queue of departments, but we'll share those with you later as we wrap up the sessions. We want to thank everyone for being a part of EarthFest this week. So thank you and welcome back for those of you who have been with us from day one. So we are starting the day with some exciting videos, just as we did in the past couple of days, and some incredible presentations from some of our faculty who are subject matter experts in today's topic. So we align our sustainability goals with the United Nations 17 goals for sustainable development. Sustainable development was defined by the United Nations back in 1987, and they started looking at specific goals for the entire nation that would help us create better quality of life, a sustainable quality of life. And so these are the 17 goals. One of the things I want to share with you that most people misinterpret is that sustainability is purely about saving the planet or saving our environment, which it is, but it is not the only thing. If you take a look at this figure here, you will see that sustainability is divided up into 3 sections. One, which is the social environment, and I shouldn't say sections, I should say systems. We live in a world of 3 systems: the environmental, the social, and the economic, and they're completely interconnected with each other. So if you affect one, you affect all of them. And so sustainability is really about understanding those interconnections and understanding how to act and how to solve problems, considering that we want to benefit all 3 at the same time. So if you take a look at this, you'll see that equality, health, and well-being, the entire half bottom, is all about the social system, whereas the top right is about the economic system and the top left is the environmental. So this week, since we are celebrating our planet, our environment, since we are celebrating EarthFest, we're focused on the 5 sustainable development goals that are specific to the contribution of our environment, to protecting our environment. And so today we are going to cover climate action, very important topic when we're looking at all the challenges we are facing today, and how climate action actually affects us as human beings, how it affects the environment, and how it affects our economy. You all know that whenever there is some kind of natural disruption, it affects all of it. It affects us as society and it affects our economy as well, aside from it affecting the environment. So this is why it's so important to really understand where climate action comes from. What are we doing and what can we do to reverse that action, the climate action, so that we can sustain quality of life? And so today we have some incredible sessions. We are going to start off with a quick video on sustainable development goal number 13, which is to take urgent action to combat the climate change and its impacts to, as I mentioned, our planet, our society, and our economy. So I'm going to ask Jeremy to share the first video, and then from there we will go on to hear a little bit from some of our subject matter experts in climate action and climate change. Thank you.
Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. We are so used to hearing people speak about climate change that we sometimes forget that it affects all countries and all people. It is a phenomenon of human activity that threatens our future and continues increasing. Currently, the emission of gas due to the greenhouse effect are 50% superior than in 1990. We have to combat it through innovation and investment in energetic efficiency and development with low carbon emissions. We could carry out a more sustainable and respectful economic activity. If we don't act now, many of the advances achieved in the last years regarding development will be lost. Leo Burnett and the WWF are organizations of very different activities, but they joined forces to improve things. The publicity agency and the NGO promoted the Hour of the Planet, volunteer power cuts on the last Saturday of March of every year to create awareness in society about the need to adopt measures against climate change. A complete hour where in 2007, almost 10% of energy was saved in Sydney, with 2.2 million people taking part in the event. In 2018, 188 countries participated, switching off 17,900 monuments, buildings, and homes. Nowadays, through social media, any of us can invent and organize an initiative like this one. Are you aware of the millions of ways you can contribute every day? 1. Always follow the rule of the 3 R's. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Fix a device instead of throwing it away to reduce its consumption. Always use reusable packaging and take advantage of the recycling containers. 2. Avoid printing paper. Do you need to remember something you saw online? Write it down on a note, or even better, in a digital note, and save up to 100% of paper. 3. Compensate your carbon emissions. You can now calculate your carbon marks and buy climate credit with free online initiatives. 4. Make your family, neighbors, school, or company plant trees every year, an initiative that unites and helps enormously. 5. Participate in awareness activities and fundraising for the environment, like charity runs or creative workshops with recycled materials. It's our planet, it's our home.
Thank you, Jeremy, for sharing that. And there are so many more tips of things that we can do to reverse climate change. And it all starts with us. And it starts with all those little baby steps and all those little things that we can do ourselves at home. I think we had someone ask the other day in one of our polls, how one individual could actually have that much impact. Believe it or not, we all have the opportunity to actually have an impact. And first and foremost, through our own self-transformation. If we start taking these baby steps to just do these things at home and at work, we're going to find ourselves living much healthier, happier lives and sharing that with our loved ones and our children. And once that trickle effect happens, we're going to start to see much higher impacts. It's about changing those little habits that we have that we tend to do on a daily basis and really taking the conscientiousness of doing it for the sake of better and improving quality of life and sustaining that quality of life. So let's start with us, and then we can move forward, in doing more and more and more. And if you need help with it, please contact our office, because we have guides for you and we have resources, and we can come and give conversations and give presentations and trainings and anything that you might need. We're happy to assist you with all of that. So we are going to move forward with an incredible presenter. Dr. Catherine Hayhoe is from Texas Tech University. She has published many articles and books and has presented at many conferences that I've been to. I'm hoping to bring her here to Utrgv, possibly this coming semester for the upcoming STEM conference. She is an incredible person and incredible professional. So I am not going to give it away. I want you to listen to her. She has an incredible TED Talk, and we're going to share it with you today with hopes that we can bring her here to campus and invite all of you. And for those of you who have joined us from school districts and from the high schools here in the Rio Grande Valley, we will definitely let you know if we can bring her here to our campus as a distinguished speaker, as a keynote speaker, so that you can attend as well. So thank you all so much again. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. We're going to start with our first presentation from Dr. Catherine Hayhoe. Let's get this full screen, guys. Next, we are going to move to our our faculty subject matter experts here at UTRGV to share with you some of the work that's being done, some of the research with reference to climate action. And we want to share with you a presentation from our two sustainability fellows, our faculty fellows, Dr. Mason Pornick and Dr. Yongmin Kim, who are working with a student sustainability fellow, a graduate student by the name of Claudia Aleman. They do data collection here at UTRGV, and that data collection is for the sake of greenhouse gas emissions inventory. This helps us understand at UTRGV what our carbon footprint is and how we can take that information to start reducing our carbon footprint so that we here as an institution can start having an impact towards reversing climate change. So with us this morning, I'm not sure, Jeremy, do we have Dr. Pornick or Dr. Kim or Claudia with us this morning so that we can go to Q&A afterwards?
No, ma'am, I believe they're otherwise engaged.
Okay, so if you would please share their presentation. I think you will be pleasantly surprised to see some of the numbers of how with several years of sustainability and having those conversations that Dr. Catherine Hayhoe was referring to, slowly but surely we are starting to move the needle and to actually cut back on our carbon footprint. So Jeremy, if you would please share the presentation. It is a short presentation. It is somewhat technical, but if you can please follow, and if you have any questions, maybe we can address those afterwards, even though Dr. Pornick and Dr. Kim and Claudia are not with us this morning. Thank you. Jeremy, if you would please share. Thanks.
Over a year ago, you would have never imagined the transition to remote work and learning. The impact that COVID-19 had on UTRGV's carbon footprint is presented. Thank you everyone for joining, and I hope you enjoy this presentation. My name is Claudia Aleman, and I graduated with my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering in May 2019. I then began my master's degree in the middle of the pandemic. Remote learning was a huge change, not only for me, but for many. And to be honest, I do enjoy change. Not only does it allow growth, but it set me on to my engineering career path. When I was in middle school, my parents owned a car wash where I loved to help out. I would be fascinated with the cars that would arrive to be serviced. Observing the changes and improvements in technology the cars underwent intrigued me. I then decided I wanted to be a part of significant changes. Today, the world is faced with the accelerating detrimental effects of climate change. Climate change is a long-term change of Earth's overall temperature and typical weather patterns in a place, usually or mostly caused by greenhouse gas emissions. So what are greenhouse gas emissions? Well, these are gases in Earth's atmosphere that trap heat emitted from human activities, such as the burning of fossil fuels. These gases can remain in the atmosphere for many years and are measured in metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, MTCDE. Basically, all major greenhouse gas emissions released are converted to the equivalent amount of carbon dioxide, which is considered the most concerning greenhouse gas. Now I introduce UTRGV's greenhouse gas emission inventory, which was created as a strategic plan to set a baseline of overall campus resource use, as well as to answer global requests and track and reduce greenhouse gas emissions and achieve greater sustainability on campus. The greenhouse gas inventory allowed results analysis of carbon footprint on campus for fiscal year 2020. This sustainability project is based on goal number 12 and 13, which aim for responsible consumption and production, as well as climate change by the year 2030. Reports of the COVID-19 pandemic spreading originated in November 2019. but officially impacted Utrgv in March 2020. Nearly half of fiscal year 2020 emissions was impacted by COVID. The methodology behind the data collection is the following. Scope 1 includes owned or controlled sources by Utrgv. Scope 2 is purely from the generation of electricity. And lastly, Scope 3 is from sources not directly controlled by Utrgv. As the scopes increase, it does become much more difficult to control and mitigate. Fiscal years range from September 1st through August 31st. So basically, all the resources used by the university within that time frame are accounted for in the inventory. The map shows Utrgv's campuses and off-campus research and teaching sites throughout the Rio Grande Valley. As a growing institution, Utrgv has increased in space by 7% and in enrollment by 10% since the baseline year, which is fiscal year 2016. The following graph shows the number of resources consumed versus the fiscal year. Although there have been an increase in university fleet due to the merge of two campuses that are miles apart, a 19% decrease in fleet fuel was due to a complete stop in bus routes after COVID. University sports were paused with unoccupied soccer fields, causing a 10% decrease of synthetic fertilizer application. Lastly, with less demand in campus buildings, refrigerants and fossil fuels decreased by 29% and 9% respectively. In Scope 2, electricity consumption showed a steady situation. Although the campus went remote, buildings still had to operate at a smaller level due to future possible maintenance issues. Considering the addition of space and enrollment, as well as Utrgv's focus on operating in a more effective and efficient way, the efforts to control and mitigate electrical consumption have shown to be quite impressive throughout the fiscal year. Finally, the most difficult scope to control and mitigate proved to be the most impacted by COVID. When the campus went remote, a total of 12 waste containers were not utilized, allowing landfill waste to decrease by 38%. Travel bans across the world restricted air and ground travel. Wastewater was the only category that produced an increase, likely driven by more hand washing and cleanliness standards with COVID-19. Also, due to a decrease in fertilizer consumption, fields were watered more often. Less commuting to and from school caused a shift in commuting habits. A commuting survey was sent out in fall 2020 to obtain more accurate information on the mode of transportation used by campus users. With a shift to remote learning, carbon-free commuting went from 13% to almost 50%. The total resource consumption in 2020 was used to determine that 69,800 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent were emitted, a decrease of 18% from fiscal year 2019. The overall campus footprint was then normalized to further understand how a campus user or the area of building contributed to the total campus emissions. It was calculated that 2.9 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent was emitted per full-time campus user. So whether you were an employee or a student. Focus on energy-intensive spaces such as laboratory space, healthcare space, and others resulted in 16 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emitted for every 1,000 square feet on campus. So this study allowed us to track the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions and what was a turning point in this data collection for future mitigation to protect the planet. With future emission mitigation, air quality will not worsen which benefits human health. And lastly, the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions due to COVID saved Utrgv $82,723 in electricity cost, $106,347 in fossil fuel costs, and $79,828 in paper purchasing costs in comparison to the previous fiscal year. Students and employees also benefited by saving gas costs from less commuting. Reduction strategies have already been implemented at Utrgv over the past years. Opportunity to further grow can help control or mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. This inventory proved that the most difficult scope to mitigate was the most impacted by COVID. As we consider coming back to a new normal, continuing to offer remote or hybrid learning could further progress mitigation in scope 3. Utrgv currently accounts for over 100 electric vehicles that mitigate scope 1 emissions. Continuation in these initiatives could be significant. Aside from the solar energy already incorporating in the engineering building and in conjunction with SpaceX, expansion of renewable resource energy on intensive buildings emissions could improve scope 2 emissions. This research has provided a roadmap for Utrgv to further advance towards their sustainability goals. Acknowledgements. I want to thank Dr. Grewal for giving me the opportunity to become a sustainability fellow. This project left me with valuable skills and insights on sustainability. Thank you also to the Graduate College and Office for Sustainability for awarding me this fellowship. A special thanks to Marianela Franklin, who was my sustainability mentor. With her help and guidance, I learned a lot about sustainability and developed better research skills. The completion of this project would not have been possible without the support of my advisors, Dr. Pornick and Dr. Kim. And lastly, I want to extend my gratitude to the Facilities Planning and Operation Department, the Accounting Department, the Transportation Department, and the Assets Management Department for collaboration in data collection.
We are very proud of Claudia. She is completing our 2021 to 22 greenhouse gas emissions inventory right now as a fellow, also under the guidance of Dr. Pornick and Dr. Kim. She has done an incredible job. It takes a whole year of data collection and doing a lot of calculations to put this report together, and with consultants also who help review the information as a third-party certifier that the information is accurate. So we're really, really proud of them for taking on the task of conducting this on a yearly basis. And every year it's done with a student, a graduate student sustainability fellow. And this year, these past 2 years, it's been Claudia, and she's done a phenomenal job. So we're very, very proud of her. So we are going to move forward with the next presentation. But before we do so, I wanted to just double check to see if anyone had any questions. I had seen in the chat that there was a question, but I may have been mistaken by whom was asking a question. So Jeremy, if you could help me with that. Does anyone have any questions before we move on to the next presentation?
So right now we are fine. No one has a question yet. But please, if anyone has a comment, if they had liked a specific presentation, or if they'd like some kind of follow-up, or they'd like to maybe open discussion on it, feel free to use the chat box or raise your hand. Thank you.
Thank you. So we will move to our next presenter, which is Dr. James Ji-Hoon Kang. He is an associate professor with the School of Earth, Environmental and Marine Sciences. And he has an incredible presentation on biochar. What is biochar and what does it do to the environment and the climate? So we're excited. This is the first time that Dr. Ji-Hoon Kang has participated in EarthFest, so we're eager to hear his presentation. And I'm going to ask Jeremy if he could please share that video with us now. Is Dr. Kang with us, by the way?
I just did a scan and no, ma'am.
Okay.
Happy Earth Day, everyone. It's my pleasure to make a presentation regarding the biochar and what does it for environment and climate. My name is James Kang, a faculty member at the School of Earth, Environment, and Marine Sciences. And I'd like to acknowledge my lab student who helped the biochar work as you hear today. Well, I'd like to start with, what is biochar? Well, you see the charcoal here. I love grilling, but biochar is not for grilling. There's no the fuel function in it, but biochar is short name for biological charcoal and often termed as black carbon. And it is obtained from heat in an oxygen limited condition. So any carbon containing material meet with oxygens, then it's going to generate CO2, which is carbon dioxide. And you guys know that that's the major greenhouse gases. But the biochar, by productions, it can sequester the carbon into the solid phase by limiting the carbon dioxide emission in the long term. So it has different application, but my talk's gonna cover amendment and water filter the application to remove heavy metal. And you can see some examples here after pyrolysis. Well, I put out terra preta, that's the Portuguese word, the black land. And if you imagine Amazonian, the environment, well, there's high precipitation like a rainforest, high biological activity. The soil over there there's not much things left. So highly weathered soil, which is called oxysoil. You can see here reddish and orange color, but the old Amazonian was smart and they had soil rebuilding techniques by adding biochar to the soil. The carbon, the biochar is stable, so it can last 100,000 years. That's why we see the black carbon in terra preta. Well, the old Amazonian used the kiln and put out the biochar into the soil. So rather than slash and burn, which is common practice in crop field after harvest to add organic matter, but slash and char is more long-term strategy to rebuild the soil. Of course, another benefit is to sequester the carbon so that the carbon stay in the soil for a long time without generating the carbon dioxide emissions. What's a good idea? Well, this slide shows pyrolysis. That's the term used to make the biochar. So here's the biomass. It can be any woody material, can be manure, crop residue. And since it's organic, under limited conditions, it's gonna generate the biogas or biofuel. And by product, it generates this remaining part as solid, which is termed as biochar. Again, it has been used as soil amendment, vegetable, and water cleanup. Well, I'd like to introduce some terminology here, carbon positive, which means, by burning fossil fuel, the human activity generate carbon dioxide and emit it to atmosphere. Carbon neutral, by adopting renewable energy 100%. Although there's no carbon dioxide emitted to atmosphere, then we can say that this is carbon neutral. Carbon negative, we make further step. We want to sequester the carbon to the soil So biochar amendment can achieve carbon negative system. That's one of the benefits of biochar uses. And if you're doing gardening, you're probably familiar with compost. Well, simply speaking, compost contains labile, easily degradable carbon, and it can boost microbial activity in the soil. But biochar, it was produced in high temperature, so the carbon itself is pretty stable, but it can provide the habitat for the microbes, and it is efficient in retaining nutrients. So in the long term, there's benefit of biochar to the soil in addition to carbon sequestration functions. Well, I'm going to briefly talk about the biochar amendment for agriculture field. We're looking at beautiful garden here. Well, bottom line, we don't want to add raw biochar to the soil. It can be harmful. It's going to increase the pH and ash content, adding more alkaline property in the soil. For the biochar, it needs to be blended with other organics, like a compost tea, worm casting. That's earthworm, and some poops from earthworm too, which is good organic fertilizer. And manure can be added too. But by adding those organic, it can activate the microbes and nutrients into the biochar material. Well, my students had opportunity to do field scale experiment for cucumber productions. So the student used mesquite tree biochar, and you can see the brewing operation of compost tea here with the aerations. So we generate the inoculate biochar with compost or the vermicompost as other treatments. And this is the field setup with biochar amendments. And well, you can see visually the cucumber is big. It's for the pickling, but way bigger than that. And well, this cucumber comes from inoculate biochar with vermicompost and compost. So there was the treatment boosted the cucumber yield. Well, I put out a graph here, on the y-axis, you see the cucumber yield, mass per the area. And well, notice that the control, there is no amendment, no biochar, no compost. And the plot received the raw biochar preference similar to control, which is not good. But by adding compost, increase the yield, and using inoculate biochar with the vermicompost or adding additional compost boosted the cucumber yield. Well, in terms of biochar production, any biomass can be used, woody, agricultural waste, even solid waste from municipal wastewater treatment plant can be used. Well, this is something you can cook the biochar in your house. Well, I put out a YouTube clip here, how to make a top lid updraft stove for biochar, but it can be used as stove for cooking. But while it's burning, it generates the charcoal material at bottom chamber. It's a relatively simple and useful approach to make the biochar. Well, I'm a scientist, so we need controlled environment, like a constant temperature for pyrolysis. So tube furnace has been used, or conventional laboratory, the furnace can be used as long as container has the lid and limit oxygen introduction to the container. My student had the opportunity to work with lead removal, which is heavy metal, and it has been regulated by EPA as water pollutants. And in this study, we picked 3 different biomass: avocado seed, well, after consumptions, aspen bedding, representing woody material, and the common yard waste, palm tree, the bark, and biochar cooked at 3 different temperatures: 400, 600, 800 degrees Celsius in this study. Well, this is the microscopic images of individual biochar, but you can see the nature of the surface. It generates the pore space on the surface, and with palm tree bark, you can see more interior pore, the foam by palm tree bark, the biochar. Well, to test out, biochar efficiency in removing the lead in the water, we did control experiment with the lead solution reacted with biochar. And this shows a screening test results. We see the lead removal in y-axis, and you can see avocado seed at different temperature, aspen bedding, different temperature, palm tree at different temperature during pyrolysis. And well, we have good news. Avocado seed and palm tree, all temperature, they were good. 100% removal of the lead. And for the aspen bedding, high temperature biochar was preferred. Well, quickly wrap up my talk. The biochar has multiple benefits. Number one, if biochar needs to be used as soil amendment, it needs to be inoculated with other organic material like a vermicompost or compost or compost tea as liquid fertilizer. That's going to boost the crop yield. And the biochar material can be used as filter media, and we tested for heavy metal removal. And there's another benefit of biochar use to achieve carbon negative system. With that, this is my final slide. If you're interested in biochar, applications, I want you to go to Google and type 55 uses of biochar. And you're going to see different the uses of the biochar, including building material, fuel cell, and so on. Okay? So please check it out. With that, I'd like to close my talk. And if you happen to have any question, please email me. And I'm putting out my email here. And thanks for joining my talk. And happy Earth Day, everyone.
We want to thank Dr. Ji-Hoon Kang for giving this presentation to us. We, for one, are going to be reaching out to him to talk about a potential campus as a living lab project. These projects are projects that we have here on campus to service the campus. And what we have in mind is now that we have a 5-acre farm and we have a season here at the university where our facilities and operations department does the maintenance and the pruning of all the grounds on the campus right before hurricane season, where they prune all the trees and they prune all the palm fronds from the palm trees. All of this waste can be converted into biochar and could be used possibly also with a biodigester to start picking up all the food scraps to create both biochar and compost, and the combination of two to do all the wonderful, with his wonderful research, we're now seeing, thanks to his research and the information he's provided, we're now seeing, the yields of, as he showed, the crop they put together, which were cucumbers, how much more of a yield there is. And so we would love to be able to partner his work with our facilities department, with our Hub of Prosperity and Community Gardens, our Pollinator Gardens. We have so many different kinds of gardens here at the university, as well as with SARA, the Center for Sustainable Agriculture and Rural Advancement. We'd like to see, some of our faculty working together and taking their research even further to help supplement some of the other researchers who are conducting research in areas of agriculture or pollination and so on. So we're really excited to have had Dr. Ji-Hoon Kang's work with us this day for EarthFest, or this week for EarthFest, and we're excited about possibly putting something together to share with you for next EarthFest that kind of takes this even further. So thank you again, Dr. Kang. We are going to go to our next presentation because Dr. Kang is not with us to answer any questions, but I hope you did copy his email address, and if not, you can also contact us. Our next presenter is Dr. Teresa Patricia Feria. She is an associate professor at the College of Science and also biology department. So Jeremy, if you'd like to please share, Dr. Feria is a faculty sustainability champion for us. She's been working on sustainability from day one, and we're really excited to bring to you her presentation on climate action, flooding events, and vector-borne diseases. Jeremy, if you could please share, thank you. Is Dr. Feria with us, Jeremy? I forgot to ask.
Well,
Yes.
I'd like to mention that all the pictures that you see here are actually pictures from the valley. I want to talk a little bit about what is flooding, and probably don't need too much detail on that because we all have experienced that, unfortunately, here in the Lower Rio Grande Valley. Flooding are extreme weather events when heavy rain or even some not heavy rain can fall in hours or days. So basically can develop slowly or very fast. Still a very big concern. It's actually the second most widespread natural disaster on Earth after wildfires. The problem we have here in the valley is the poor drainage and the river delta nature of this area that contributes to frequent events of this type of what we call urban flooding. This, as you know, we have had several events and every year actually about, and more than once a year, unfortunately. And if you live in a semi-rural area like I do, you see a lot of areas like this. And then when the water recedes is when we have the bad issues, in addition to the ones with the water, right, the flooding. So there is just like a number of bad events that we have. So mud, hazardous material, mold, diseases like typhus, for example, cholera, and water and soil-borne diseases are frequent in some areas. And what we have experienced a lot here is the case of the vector-borne disease. I'm going to talk about it. Mosquitoes are about 2,500 species, what we have in the world. 200 of them bite humans. 85 of them have been reported in Texas, and 40 of them are distributed in South Texas. From those, 5 species of mosquitoes that you might recognize in your backyard, front yard, or even inside your house, belong to the Aedes genus, Aedes aegypti, albopictus, and the culex, the brown type of mosquitoes that you might even see inside the house. They can transmit diseases like West Nile, dengue, chikungunya, Zika, and they bite not only humans, other type of mammals, but some other different species of mosquitoes can also bite other type of organisms. Like in this case, these mosquitoes specialize just for frogs. Those are like fun facts. For all of these little micro habitats like water containers are actually great places for them to lay the eggs. Now imagine, and we don't need to imagine, right? Raise your hand if you have experienced something like this. We all have experienced something like this. So what is happening with climate change and floodings? The frequency and the severity is increasing. And also the temperatures that are increasing are helping these mosquitoes that you can see in the case of these Aedes. All these colors from blue to red in different parts of the world are actually good areas for them to thrive. So we will have suitable conditions for mosquitoes to be around. What exactly is happening in this area that I'm right now concerned? We'll talk about it. So we are actually moving very frequently from the border between Texas and Mexico, and that is a beautiful thing. We share culture, we share food, we share a lot of great things. And unfortunately, we also share a legacy of infectious diseases. That is something that we cannot deny, and we need to study and work together to prevent and control those type of diseases. So I'm going to talk about Chagas disease, and this is a disease that is transmitted by what we call the kissing bug, like Chinche besucona in Spanish. And that comes at night, get some blood, and the feces, when they poop, they have the parasite that can go through the system with the wound when somebody scratches, and then in the morning passes the parasite that looks like this to the circulatory system. The Chagas disease has been reported in several places in the United States. These are human cases. I don't want to scare anybody here, but rather talk about the actions we can take to prevent these diseases. Some areas where we have seen positive cases, and I'm just illustrating the South Texas, in this case, the Lower Rio Grande Valley. The dots mean some of the insects that we have collected that are positive for the disease. Basically, the disease causes cardiac problems, and it can be 5, 10, 15, 30 years after the insect has transmitted the parasite. We know that we can do models, like I'm going to talk specifically in this case, the kissing bug that we have reported historically in this area. All the colors here in this map show suitable habitat for the present, and then in the future with climate change. So with the conditions of climate change, the future, we have mosquito for a while. I'm sorry, kissing bugs for a while. Now, what we're doing in terms of actions? Students at Utrgv are working with local community leaders, and this was before the pandemic. So you can see that we've been going to different places to talk about how we can prevent this disease, because that is the beautiful thing about these actions. We can prevent the diseases. So just by looking at the insect and reporting that the insect is around, is a great help. So what we discover is that most of the people participated don't have a knowledge about this disease. And maybe you're hearing this topic today, you have not heard about this. So I can talk more about this with everybody if there is an opportunity. There are other diseases like Rhizocephalus sanguineus, tick can transmit. And we have not in my lab, but in other places, develop maps. All these great areas are suitable places for this. What means to be suitable? They can be there. So the same thing that we did for Chagas disease, we did for tick-borne diseases. And my students found great information about tick-borne diseases, both in the north and south parts of Texas, the Lower Rio Grande Valley, and other parts of Mexico. About most of the people that answered, they said that they are aware that ticks can transmit diseases, I'm not gonna potentially go and be placing all these graphs. I don't want you to get bored with this, but just understand that what we have here is the count of number of people that answered the questions that we posed for them in relationship to the transmission of ticks, the disease of ticks. So most people answered that they know that the disease exists, that can be transmitted by ticks, and that they also know that these can be transmitted to humans and animals, like your pets, your dogs. And also talking very important about the prevention. What we do when we go outside, do we talk the children pads? Yes or no? So most people answer no, they never do that. Those are measurements to prevent tick-borne diseases. Do you use repellent to go outside? Almost never. Most people answer. Then, did you dress your children in clear colors? That is another way to avoid that these insects can come with us, and most people answer no. So it's easily to check for ticks when you wear those colors. Do you check your children for ticks after returning indoors? Most people say no or never. Did you have your children shower right after returning indoors? And here most people, there is not much different with never, but we have more people saying that always. However, they don't check for ticks. So even taking a shower might not mean that you are safe. So what we found here, as we did with some surveys that we did for the Chagas disease, is that even though people know about the disease, we don't do too much to prevent that. Surveys are good, are important, they have the pitfalls that we might address, but are giving us important information to know what we can do. And this is actions again. Translate information in Spanish for our population here and transmit that in non-scientific ways. Even with songs, music can help us to address the issues. We have to prevent these diseases that we might have more often with this climate change and changing weather variabilities. Spraying, taking care of any microhabitat or big habitats we might have outside from backyard. Check for your ticks, spray in the front of backyards against insects that can, not all insects are bad, so we have to be very careful with that. So if you have a garden with flowers, you don't want to touch that, and you don't have to be worried about that, just to be aware that these ticks might be around. For kissing bugs, even check inside your house. So there are things that we can do all to prevent this. And other actions that are taken at other levels are, as we have done, the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, with binational efforts with Mexico to have programs of surveillance against mosquitoes, and especially for those that can transmit diseases like Zika, chikungunya, so in general more. And the beautiful thing I would like to talk about this is that the students working together with local communities, they learning from each other, because we learn a lot from communities, is using recycling, for example, ties, converting them in beautiful gardens with pots, as pots with native plants. So we are helping in everywhere here, creating pollinator gardens for our bees, for example, and attracting butterflies with native plants at the same time that we get rid of what is a potential good place for insects to lay eggs, cleaning the areas around, recycling plastic, recycling, reusing. Reducing is better, don't even use that, right? So, but there are mechanisms that we can use to help. In collaboration with local leaders, for example, San Carlos, even the organic gardens that we are helping to build, and students are getting their own ideas for recycling and working, as I said, you can see in the pictures, with the communities. One step further now, what we are doing is how to prevent climate disasters, and in this case, floodings, with the help of the community. This is for community action also, where we get the feedback from community, is using all photos to help us to predict climate disasters like hurricanes, for example. And in collaboration with researchers from the University of Texas Austin, Museum of South Texas History, and the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, we are working in these projects now. So there are different things that we are doing, and UTRGV is helping students, faculty, everybody together. Is the only way that we can actually help prevent controlling these diseases. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Feria. I believe she is with us today. Thank you for bringing all this knowledge to us, for conducting this amazing research and bringing all this information to us, because there is that connection between climate change and what we have now and what it's going to look like in the near future if we don't start changing and transforming ourselves to being and living more sustainable lifestyles. And also the awareness of understanding what to do and how to prevent these things. I was scratching the entire time I was watching your presentation, and I know it's psychological, but every time I'd see those ticks and the mosquitoes, it was like giving me anxiety and I had to scratch. But you're right, really having an understanding and remembering that when we are going outdoors, especially those of us who, have children and pets, to really be considerate of the fact that these things do exist, and there are preventable measures so that, we could be safer rather than sorry, because I do know individuals who have been infected with Lyme disease because of tick bites and other kinds of diseases because of, mosquitoes and all those other little creatures that are crawling in the grass. So thank you so much, Dr. Feria, for sharing all that with us, and kudos to all those amazing projects that you're doing out in the community. I hope that you will let us know so we can go out there with you sometime to contribute to all those great projects. So I am going to ask Jeremy, are there any questions so Dr. Feria could answer, or if Dr. Feria could give us a few words before we move on to our next presentation? Jeremy, you're muted.
There is no direct questions, but Dr. Feria is here in the speaking room with us in case she'd like to say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. I think that the students and working with the communities are helping and learning and helping us to learn also a lot. So thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you everybody to be here today.
Thank you so much for participating in EarthFest this year, and we hope you'll join us again next year. Hopefully we can do all this live and we can have the opportunity to meet face-to-face with all our students, staff, faculty, and also all those joining us from the high schools here in the Rio Grande Valley. Thank you so much, Dr. Feria. So next we have a presentation from Dr. Sarah Fernley-Hardage, and she is going to share a little bit about UTRGV and the environmental science program. I hope that we have our Upward Bound and what is the other group? Gear Up. Yes, Upward Bound and Gear Up high schools that are with us this morning. This is really exciting presentation, so you can learn a little bit about this wonderful program that we have here at UTRGV, the Environmental Science Program, which is part of the School of Earth, Environmental and Marine Sciences. So Jeremy, if you could please share, is Dr. Hardage with us?
No, ma'am.
She's not with us. Okay. I'm not sure. Is Dr. Gonzalez with us? Maybe he might want to share a few words after the presentation.
Yeah.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. So let's go ahead and share her presentation, and then we'll hear from Dr. Gonzalez.
Hello, my name is Sarah Hardage. I'm the program coordinator for the Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Science degree program here at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. You can feel free to contact me at my email address here. It's sarah.fernleyhardage@utrgv.edu. Again, I'm the program coordinator for our Bachelor of Science program in Environmental Science. And I'd like to take a few minutes to introduce you to what the program has to offer and maybe convince some of you to join us when you come to university, possibly at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. It's a program for varied interests. It's a multidisciplinary bachelor's degree program that prepares graduates for careers in a variety of locations, whether your goals are to work in local, state, or federal agencies, nonprofit organizations, the private industry, whether you want to stay in the Valley, stay in Texas, travel the US, or travel the world. We also prepare students to continue their academic research at the master's or PhD level. So it's a good basis Bachelor's of Science program that gives you a lot of variability in the outcome. The program focuses on a common core. So the first 2 years, all ENVR majors take the same courses. And then in the later 2 years, you need to choose a concentration. We have the Earth and Ocean Sciences concentration, environmental biology, environmental chemistry, environment and society, and an interdisciplinary concentration. The concentrations primarily focus in your junior and senior years with the upper level elective classes. So that's where the different concentrations move apart from each other. What kind of job can I get with an environmental science degree? I pulled some of these links just now, knowing that we were recently advertising this GIS mapper position for a prestigious consulting company. It has an office in McAllen, but this particular position was in Houston. The city of Pharr, Texas is looking for an urban ecologist, and I looked this one up because just a few weeks ago, the city of Pharr was looking for a GIS technician. We often post jobs for students from the Edwards Aquifer group that's in San Antonio. They need a variety of positions. This particular link is for a data analyst. We often have students employed through the Fish and Wildlife Service and Texas Parks and Wildlife, whether that's here in the Valley or throughout Texas. I know we have one recent graduate that let me know he is actively working for Sherryland Water Corporation as a GIS specialist. So whether you're interested in getting employment locally here in the Rio Grande Valley, somewhere in Texas or across the US, we can help you with that. Your ENVR degree can help you find a job. What kind of living can I expect to make with an ENVR degree? So these next several slides, the data comes from the American Geophysical Union, the AGU. They put together a status of the workforce in the United States publication every couple of years. So this data is primarily from 2018 with some updated information from 2001. The AGU refers to it as geoscience. So what does that mean? It means all of these various subcategories that we cover in our ENVR degree program at UTRGV. Every one of our graduates is considered an environmental scientist. Students in the earth and ocean concentration get a lot of geology. They can also pivot and work towards hydrography. Atmospheric science, we also have a robust soil science presence in the ENVR program. You can get a soil science certificate. They work directly with the United States Department of Agriculture, the USDA, and then several other subtopics that are included under geoscience. Whichever subcategory you want to look at, the future looks good. Geoscientists have very good prospects for current and future job availability and above average salaries. How do we know that? Here's a salary graph from 2007 to 2017, the median annual salaries of geoscientists all well above the average American salary of about $37,000 a year. So geoscientists typically make double or more the average American annual salary. Job availability, there are literally hundreds of thousands of jobs available. So this is geoscience jobs by industry in 2016. There was just under 100,000 jobs available in 2016 in professional, scientific, and technical services. The next most numerous is in state government, in educational services, the federal government, local government, of course, oil and gas still plays a role, management, manufacturing, mining, and we go down from there, but literally hundreds of thousands of jobs available. Those jobs are primarily environmental scientists. So from 2008 to 2016, a solid 8-year period, there was 90,000 jobs available for environmental scientists in the US. And women are critically underrepresented in these geoscience positions. So the blue lines are showing the number of women in all occupations, and the green line is highlighting the number of women in geoscience occupations. So read underrepresented as opportunity. Minorities are also critically underrepresented in the sciences, and again, read that as opportunity. Companies, governments want to balance this out and will actively look to hire these underrepresented groups. Future job availability, this is a bit of a weird graph. What it's showing is the average distribution of age groups as geoscientists. So how many geoscientists are in their 30s, how many are in their 40s, how many are in their 50s. And the bulk of geoscientists in the US are in their 50s to 60s. They're in the age group 50 to 60, which means they're about to retire. Average age of retirement is 60 to 65. So we have this large group of employees that are retiring now. This is data from 2017, and they're getting ready to retire. So they are retiring now, opening up those positions to young geoscientists that can come in and fill that role. Job availability since COVID, here's some new data from 2001. I want you to notice that geoscience positions are stable. There's stability and availability in the job hunt. So when you get a job as a geoscientist, whether it's an environmental scientist, a geologist, an ecologist, manager, conservation scientist, a post-secondary teacher, or a high school geoscience teacher, those jobs have stability. I do hope to see many of you join us in the Bachelors of Science in Environmental Science degree program at Utrgv. Again, my name is Sarah Hardage, and I'm the degree program coordinator. Please feel free to email me any questions that you might have about studying environmental science at Utrgv.
I want to thank Dr. Hardage for preparing this presentation for us for EarthFest. I'm really excited to hear from Dr. Gonzalez as well. I know that we have a couple of teachers who are streaming to the high schools here in the Rio Grande Valley. So I'm going to let Dr. Gonzalez maybe give us a little bit of information that maybe Dr. Hardage may not have covered, or just to say hello. The School of Earth, Environmental, and Marine Sciences is under his leadership, and we're really excited to be hosting EarthFest this year alongside Dr. Gonzalez and Seams. So Dr. Gonzalez, any words for us before we continue with the rest of our presentation and start wrapping up for this morning session?
Thank you, Marianela. No, I think Sarah covered the main point that we wanted to get across, and that is if you are interested in the planet, the health of the planet, sustainability, sciences in general, we have a spot for you. And anyone starting in our degree this coming fall will not have a hard time finding a good paying job and making a difference for the planet by the time they graduate. So think about our program, reach out with your questions. We'll be happy to answer them. We have opportunities for research and be engaged in many activities, and we are happy to answer them for you.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. I really appreciate that. I want to share with the group, if we have any high school students that are listening right now, that, at one point my daughter came to me in high school telling me she wasn't really sure what she wanted to do as far as college. She knew she wanted to go to college, but she was worried because there was so many options. She had no idea what to pick. And I told her, to consider what she liked. And she said, well, I like so many things. And I said, well, tell me what you don't like. And she says, I don't ever want to be stuck in an office. I don't ever want to be stuck behind a computer. I think I want my profession to be a profession that is really connected to the outdoors and connected to nature. And so I told her, oh, you want to do environmental sciences. And that's exactly what she did. She's really happy. She's about to complete her degree program. And as Dr. Gonzalez said, there's so much opportunity right now. There's so many people my age starting to retire. And so we need all those wonderful, talented young students that are graduating right now to take on that new responsibility as we start facing all these challenges, because you are the ones who are going to make those incredible changes and shifts that are going to help us, have a better future here in the coming years. So we're really excited about you joining the environmental sciences or the School of Earth, Environmental and Marine Science. We hope that these presentations today give you some insight of how exciting it is to take on career paths in these areas. Our faculty and students have so much fun. It doesn't seem like a whole lot of work because they really enjoy, they're very passionate about what they do. So thank you all for joining us again. And thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, for sharing those words. We're gonna move on. And I just wanted to share a few quotes that I really love. The future is up for grabs. It belongs to any and all who will take the risk and accept the responsibility of consciously creating the future they want. And that's what we're talking about this week. And so it's not too late to exercise your leadership, because you are all leaders. At one point in time, somebody's either reading about you, watching you, or they're with social media they can do all of the above, because nowadays people will see you, listen to you, and probably write about you just from hooking up on Instagram or Facebook or any of those wonderful social media sites. And what I mean by that is that you are a leader. When people can do that, then they're watching what you're doing. And if you take on a positive journey of a sustainable lifestyle, you're going to live a much happier, healthier lifestyle. You're going to be a much more successful individual, taking down that positive road. And so people are going to want to follow you. They're going to want to know, what is he or she doing, to be doing so good and so great. So remember that at all moments, someone's watching, which makes you a leader. The question is, what kind of leader do you want to be? Do you want to be a positive one? Or do you expect people to follow you if you're going down a depressing, negative road? So sustainability is all encompassing of positive and energy. It's a solution. It's not pointing the finger at the problem. So we're excited to bring you EarthFest this week. We hope that you've learned quite a bit. We have much more to come tonight from 6 to 8 p.m. We have our third movie that we're screening called Inhabitants. It is an incredible documentary, and it does touch on climate change. I know it's not in the title, but it does talk about climate change. And so this documentary called Inhabitants, Indigenous Perspectives on Restoring Our World, is precisely restoring our world because of climate change. So I hope you can join us tonight from 6 to 8 p.m. If you do not have the link, I think Jeremy's going to share it on the chat. You can also go to our website and go to the Film Fest and see everything there, all the different movies that we're showcasing for the rest of the week. So I want to thank everyone, and I hope that you'll join us to watch Inhabitants. And then tomorrow, we're gonna cover the last topic, which is affordable and clean energy. So join us tonight, and then join us again tomorrow morning and tomorrow evening. We have several things going on tomorrow because tomorrow is Earth Day, and we want everyone to have a very, very happy Earth Day. I'm sorry, it says 2021. It should have said 2022. Somehow I missed that one. You know, I'm still stuck on 2020. I still sign things, and when it says to put the date, I always put 2020. It's like these 2 years of COVID, I got stuck with 2020. So forgive me, here it's 2021, which should have been 2022. But tomorrow we will have another great morning, a great session of affordable and clean energy. So I hope you will join us so you can see clean energy in the Rio Grande Valley, clean energy as it relates to the research that's being conducted here on campus, and clean energy as it relates to the Rio Grande Valley. And we're going to have some presenters for you that you'll enjoy. Those of you who can join us tomorrow, our only live event that we're having, which is going to be a small but very fun event, is we are planting a tree at the Pollinator Cantina, which is the pollinator garden on our Brownsville campus. We will be out there from 11 to 12. We hope you will join us. It will be much, much fun. You will learn a lot about the benefits of pollinators. We really need these little creatures, you know, to stick around, and we need them to help us with, you know, pollination of all our agriculture and pollination for the sake of the health of our environment and our economy, because they are a big component of our economy. So we hope that you will join us live over at the Brownsville campus at the Pollinator Cantina. So as soon as you get off the bridge there on the campus over to the right, that's the Pollinator Cantina. So come and join us. Then tomorrow night, our last movie that we'll be screening, which has to do with those pollinators, is called My Garden of 1,000 Bees. Amazing, inspirational, beautiful photography and cinematography that they do for this particular documentary. I'm just amazed at you know, just look at these photographs, how close they can get to a bee and take, you know, these incredible photographs and filming. It's just amazing. That aside from the fact that it just, you know, really educates us on the importance of these little creatures that we need to take care of, especially here in our Rio Grande Valley. So please join us tomorrow, again, from 6 to 8. And like I said, we do have the links for you to take a look at on our website. We also want to invite you to check out our website, our Office for Sustainability website. We have a series called Sustainability Adelante, and we have a podcast series, a film series, and a TikTok video series. We have several of our guest speakers throughout EarthFest that have participated in the podcast series, so you can learn a lot more by checking out those podcasts. We have some very fun TikTok videos for those who enjoy, you know, short 30-second, 60-second tips on sustainability. Check out the TikTok video series. And then we have our film series, which, whoops, sorry about that. It skipped one. See if I can go back. These are the 4 films that we featured for EarthFest. Like I said, we have 2 more. They are always from 6 to 8:30 p.m. And tonight we will be featuring Inhabitants, and tomorrow A Garden of 1,000 Bees. And there's a QR code in case you want to check that out right now. You can take a picture of the QR code or try to scan it right now so that you can get over to that webpage with those links. Last but not least, we have a sustainability pledge for those of you who want to start going down the path of sustainability and sustainability practices and lifestyle. We encourage you to take this pledge and to join the Vaqueros here at Utrgv in moving towards a sustainable lifestyle. If you leave us your email address, we will send you a certificate so that you can put it up and remind yourself that you are trying to take those baby steps in becoming a sustainability leader. So we hope that you will do that as well. And Jeremy will share the link as well so that you can go and take that pledge. It's very short and sweet, but we hope you will make that commitment. And it's really a commitment for yourself more than anything. So I want to thank everyone for your continued dedication and commitment to support, us towards education for sustainable development. This is the reason why we're here this week, is to really help everyone understand how important this education is so that we can become, better communicators and better inhabitants of this beautiful planet we have, and protect each other, as a society, protect our environment and protect our economy. So thank you to all the attendees, presenters, and community partners that were with us today. I want to also thank the School of Earth, Environmental, and Marine Sciences, who we co-host this event with in partnership with the Division of Finance and Planning, the Division of Research, and our Office of Engaged Scholarship, Community Engagement, Upward Bound, and Gear Up. I also want to thank the Office for Sustainability staff, Mr. Jeremy San Miguel and Ms. Sandra Montalvo, who behind the scenes coordinate everything to make this event possible, and who help me with everything that we put out from this office, as well as the office assistants, the grad assistants, and the interns, all the beautiful graphics that you've seen, the amazing website that we have, the podcast, the video productions, all these things are done by students here from Utrgv that work in our office, and I think they're very talented and do an amazing job. So I want to thank them as well for a beautiful Earth Fest. Last but not least, I want to leave you with these QR codes for Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, and YouTube so that you can check us out, and we will record this at the end of the entire week. We will do our little editing here and there for the technical issues we may have had, and then we'll post the entire week so that you can watch it again, or so you can go and watch whatever you missed. Unfortunately, I will tell you now, we are not going to be putting up the movies. That is something that we're only able to screen once and not record. So you will get just the morning sessions. So please try to make the movies for tonight and tomorrow if you haven't already, because these are movies that we pay screening rights for that typically you would have to go and rent yourselves if you wanted to watch at a different time. So thank you all so much for joining us again today. And we hope you'll join us tonight and tomorrow as well. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. You have a wonderful time and enjoy the beautiful weather. And we will see you again, hopefully tonight for the movie and then tomorrow morning. Thank you.